Hello, folks, and welcome back for our next chapter, Chapter 6 of Carmilla. We'll explain what's going on behind me. This is Belle. She's an Oriental short hair, which is why. Oh, please don't. Don't you try and go up there. So they're very curious. They're very, well, she's very curious. She's very young. It's not always a great combination. At the moment, she's fine sitting there. I just don't want her to try to jump up on the thing that, on the stand for my backdrop. So I will keep an eye on her and hopefully she's okay. But otherwise, I'm sure the reason you clicked on this is because you're here for chapter 6 of Carmilla, which is the book we've been reading here recently. Yeah, so just the usual warnings before we get into it, and that this is on this channel I read a lot of vintage and antique sort of spooky, scary stories. In this case, it's vampires. It's not ghosts, but you know, things coming from earlier time periods often have views on race, gender, religion, sex that are quite distasteful to modern people, and those things might be in there. So this is your forewarning, your warning that might be the case for this book. And if that sounds like potentially not really something you're interested in, probably best to find a different video as well. You know, ghost stories, spooky stories often involve unpleasant things, murders, suicides, what have you. And again, if that's not quite your cup of tea, please close this video and find something else that's a little bit closer to what you're after. But otherwise, yeah, my hair is doing its own thing today. I'm like, oh, it's probably about time I dyed it again, actually, now that I'm looking at it. But yes, otherwise, chapter 6 of Carmilla. And chapter 6 is entitled, sorry, I never know, with the microphone in front, I'm never sure of where to put my arms. I'm hoping at some point to upgrade my camera and microphone, so I'm also just not stuck always recording in the same place, because I have recently acquired a beanbag chair, and it's very comfortable, and I would genuinely really enjoy being able to read to you lovely folks from that chair as opposed to this setup. All right, so chapter 6, A Very Strange Agony. When we got into the drawing room and had sat down to our coffee and chocolate, hot chocolate, although Carmilla did not take any, she seemed quite herself again, and Madame and Mademoiselle de la Fontaine joined us and made a little card party, in the course of which Papa came in for what he called his dish of tea. I mean, yeah, if you want to drink tea out of something not a teacup, lots of people do that. I had a friend growing up. Their family was Middle Eastern. And her mother used a mug or a teacup, but her father always drank out of probably what he was used to from back home was a bowl. But in this case, it was actually like a cereal bowl, which was whatever. Some people prefer doing it a different way. That's cool. When the game was over, he sat down beside Carmilla on the sofa and asked her, a little anxiously, whether she had heard from her mother since her arrival. She answered, no. He then asked whether she knew where a letter would... Oh, pardon me. I would also like to apologize in advance for the misspeakings. He then asked whether she knew where a letter would reach her at present. I mean, yeah, I guess that's fair. It'd be kind of weird if somebody dumps their kid on you and then they don't check in ever again. I cannot tell, she answered ambiguously. Oh my God, I'm tired. I'm not doing very well so far, am I? but I have been thinking of leaving you. You have been already too hospitable and too kind to me. I have given you an infinity of trouble, and I should wish to take a carriage tomorrow and post in pursuit of her. I know where I shall ultimately find her, although I dare not tell you. But you must not dream of any such thing, exclaimed my father, to my great relief. I mean, yeah, if on the face of it, don't let a unescorted teenage girl just drive off in a carriage to some place where you don't know where she's going, you don't know the people she's going to be meeting. No, definitely that is not a safe choice. I'm with the dad on this one. We can't afford to lose you so, and I won't consent to you leaving us, except under the care of your mother. Okay, that's actually quite responsible. Who was so good as to consent to your remaining with us till she should herself return. I should be quite happy if I knew that you heard from her. But this evening, the accounts of the progress of the mysterious disease that has invaded our neighborhood grow even more alarming. And, my beautiful guest, maybe don't, if you're a middle-aged man, don't be remarking on the beauty of underage girls that aren't related to you. I do feel the responsibility, unaided by advice from your mother, very much. Yeah, so he doesn't want her to take off and get sick. Again, that's actually very reasonable and responsible. But I shall do my best, and one thing is certain, that you must not think of leaving us without her distinct direction to that effect. We should suffer too much in parting from you to consent to it easily. I mean, yeah, don't let her just take off on her own. That would be dangerous and probably would not turn out so well. Thank you, sir, 1,000 times for your hospitality, she answered, smiling bashfully. You have all been too kind to me. I have seldom been so happy in all my life before, as in your beautiful chateau, under your care, and in the society of your dear daughter. So he gallantly, in his old-fashioned way, kissed her hand, smiling and pleased at her little speech. I accompanied Carmilla, as usual, to her room, and sat and chatted with her while she was preparing for bed. Do you think, I said at length, that you will ever confide fully in me? She turned round smiling, but made no answer, only continued to smile at me. You won't answer that, I said. You can't answer pleasantly. I ought not to have asked you. You were quite right to ask me that, or anything. You do not know how dear you are to me, or you could not think any confidence too great to look for. But I am under vows, no none half so awfully, and I dare not tell you my story, even to you. The time is very near when you shall know everything. You will think me cruel. Pardon me. Let's try that again. You will think me cruel, very selfish, but love is always selfish. The more ardent, the more selfish. How jealous I am, you cannot know. You must come with me, loving me, to death. Or else hate me, and still come with me, and hating me through death and after. There is no such word as indifference in my apathetic nature. Now, Carmilla, you are going to talk your wild nonsense again, I said hastily. Not I, silly little fool as I am, and full of whims and fancies for your sake. I'll talk like a sage. Were you ever at a ball? No. How you do run on. What is it like? How charming it must be. I almost forget. It is years ago. I laughed. You are not so old. Your first ball can hardly be forgotten yet. I remember everything about it, with an effort. I see it all as divers see what is going on above them, through a medium, dense, rippling, but transparent. There occurred that night what has confused the picture and made its colors faint. I was all but assassinated in my bed, wounded here, she touched her breast, and never was the same since. So reading between the lines on that one, Carmilla here is possibly being honest about her origin story. that could actually be a recounting of the night she was made into a vampire. Oh, pardon me. Whew. Were you near dying? I mean, it is kind of a weird thing to be like, yeah, I went to a ball and nearly died. That's why I don't remember much of it. It's kind of a weird thing to say to somebody. I would also have follow-up questions. Yes, very, a cruel love, strange love, that would have taken my life. Love will have its sacrifices. No sacrifice without blood. Let us go to sleep now. I feel so lazy. How can I get up just now and lock my door? She was lying with her tiny hands buried in her rich, wavy hair under her cheek. Her little head upon the pillow, and her glittering eyes followed me wherever I moved, with a kind of shy smile that I could not decipher. I bid her good night and crept from the room with an uncomfortable sensation. I often wondered whether our pretty guest ever said her prayers. I certainly had never seen her upon her knees. In the morning she never came down until long after our family prayers were over, and at night she never left the drawing-room to attend to our brief evening prayers in the hall. If it had not been that it had casually come out in one of our careless talks that she had been baptized, I should have doubted her being a Christian. Religion was a subject on which I had never heard her speak a word. If I had known the world better, this particular neglect or antipathy would have not so much surprised me. The precautions of nervous people are infectious, and persons of a like temperament are pretty sure, after a time, to imitate them. I had adopted Carmilla's habit of locking her bedroom door, having taken into my heart all her whimsical alarms about midnight invaders and prowling assassins. I had also adopted her precaution of making a brief search through her rooms to satisfy myself that no lurking assassin or robber was ensconced. These wise measures taken, I got into my bed and fell asleep. A light was burning in my room. This was an old habit, of very early date, and which nothing could have tempted me to dispense with. I mean, if it's a flame, though, maybe you should dispense with it, because that's not safe. Thus fortified, I might take my rest in peace. But dreams come through stone walls, light up dark rooms or darken light ones, and their persons make their exits and their entrances as they please, and laugh at locksmiths. I had a dream that night that was the beginnings of a very strange agony. I cannot call it a nightmare, for I was quite conscious of being asleep. But I was equally conscious of being in my room and lying in my bed precisely as I actually was. I saw, or fancied I saw, the room and its furniture just as I had seen it last, except that it was very dark, and I saw something moving round the foot of the bed, which at first I could not accurately distinguish. But I soon saw that it was a sooty black animal that resembled a monstrous cat. It appeared to me about 4 or 5 feet long, for it measured fully the length of the hearthrug as it passed over it, and it continued toing and froing with lithe, sinister restlessness of a beast in a cage. I could not cry out, although, as you may suppose, I was terrified. Its pace was growing faster, and the room rapidly darker and darker, and at length so dark that I could no longer see anything of it but its eyes. I felt it spring lightly on the bed. The 2 broad eyes approached my face, and suddenly I felt stinging pain as if 2 large needles darted an inch or 2 apart deep into my breast. I woke with a scream. The room was lighted by the candle that burnt there all through the night, and I saw a female figure standing at the foot of the bed, a little at the right side. It was in a dark, loose dress, and its hair was down and covered its shoulders. A block of stone could have not been made more still. There was not the slightest stir of respiration. As I stared at it, the figure approached. Pardon me. As I stared at it, the figure appeared to have changed its place and was now nearer the door. Then, close to it, the door opened and it passed out. I was now relieved and able to breathe and move. My first thought was that Carmilla had been playing me a trick and that I had forgotten to secure my door. I hastened to it and found the lock, as usual, on the inside. I was afraid to open it. I was horrified. I sprang into my bed and covered my head up in the bedclothes and lay there more dead than alive till morning. And that is the end of chapter 6 of Carmilla. Things starting to get a little spooky. That's a big friggin' cat, though, isn't it? See, I would die in these movies, or movies, books, TV show, whatever, because when presented with particularly a cat, I would just want it to come and snuggle. Like, oh, you might actually be like a disguised vampire and drink my blood. Cool, just give us a cuddle, and yeah, that's fine. So I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for choosing to spend some time with me here on my channel, and I hope to see you again soon. And until then, I hope you and your loved ones are safe and well, and we can hang out again together very soon. So goodbye, folks.